Well, Charles, it's the end of an era, but they say, when one door closes, another opens. You have left New York City. You're in an undisclosed location, incognito. This isn't helping anybody who's thinking, like, is this guy maybe intelligence? Nah.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, how do you know it's me? I mean,
That's a good point.
I could be following a script out of the Joe Biden playbook. Maybe this whole thing is pre-recorded.
You could be a
Fortunately,
doppelganger.
I don't wear a watch.
Yeah.
I don't wear a watch, so,
You
But,
could be a doppelganger, Charles. Many people are wondering if Joe Biden is using visual effects or a body double.
You mean a doppelganger? Is the way I pronounce that one.
Exactly.
But anyway, just a brief commercial on the decision. I've been talking ad nauseum in these podcasts about how the quality of life in New York City has really just gone below a level that I'm willing to accept. I mean, if it were free, maybe I'd think about remaining in Manhattan, but it's certainly not free.
Yeah.
I mean, to go out without getting super specific about who this dinner involved, but to go out for a simple dinner for two and not break the bank, not go and get the vintage wine and drinks and dessert and all that kind of stuff. A simple meal recently that I had with two people was $350.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for something that doesn't include truffles and caviar and Dom Perignon champagne. But anyway, I've also been talking about how when I was living in New York City, I was living in the center of Greenwich Village, which I'd lived in off and on for 65 years. So I think I have some perspective on what the neighborhood has been like, good times and bad times. And I've talked to the crowd about how I was sick and tired of being pestered. I mean, if you're an energetic beggar with a compelling story, I'm certainly not going to. So one guy approached me 20 years ago and said, "Hey, man, can I have $280,000 for a condominium?" I thought that was pretty funny. But
I don't think that didn't come together,
right?
did it?
But the pitch did not go well.
No.
But there's a bum. Somebody I know lives somewhere in Chelsea. We won't say who it is. And there's a bum who hangs out on the sidewalk, lying down. Won't even sit up. And it's got cups out and signs out and hectors every single passerby nonstop for money. And recently, when I left my apartment building, I sent a picture around. I needed to go to the airport at 7 p.m. And across the street from me, there's a picture. And Jason, if you have the picture, I wouldn't mind it being shown. In front of my view was an entrepreneur bum who had decided to take Eric Adams up on his offer of the future of garbage and used one of these garbage containers, which, by the way, bums are stealing. I don't know what they're doing with it, but this guy used one of Eric Adams' garbage containers as a wall for his makeshift shelter directly opposite the stoop of my building. And as if that wasn't enough, as I was talking to a friend who happened to be on the stoop there, I said, "This is ridiculous." And I looked to my right, and there was another bum on my side of the street in a wheelchair at 7 p.m. on a Friday. And somehow when you've got two bums per building, that doesn't strike me as a robust. There you have it. It doesn't strike me. And you look at the view. That's a nice. Vest Pocket Park right there. To your left is a theater that is memorialized with a plaque on the wall you can't see. That's the Axis Theater. But to the left of the theater, there's a little plaque on the wall that explains that theater was allowed African Americans to perform in it. There's two more bums actually there. Didn't mention
those
them.
Look like regular people, though.
No, those are bums.
Are they?
But
these are homeless people?
Yeah.
This woman has new sneakers and wow.
I mean, look, the pay is good.
This guy. Wow. That's the future of garbage, Charles. Exterior decorating. Wow.
Is the guy wearing a shirt?
No, he's wearing a shirt, but he is not doing so well with the shoes, and his feet don't look so good.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I got to see at 7 p.m. on a Friday as I left Greenwich Village, having spent 65 years right near that park. I was a little to the left for the first 64 years. And across the way there, you can see the Spaniard is actually a very nice small little place. And this actually, some people might recognize it during Halloween. The Halloween parade dumps in exactly into this area, and to your right, around the corner, is the Stonewall. So this isn't exactly, you're not in a wilderness here in New York City. This neighborhood is extremely expensive. It was extremely expensive if you wanted to have a townhouse. Somebody bought the townhouse 2 or 3 down from my apartment building, and I would estimate put at least $20 million into it between buying it and fixing it up. And that person may not know, but for months there was a homeless person living in the doorway of the townhouse. When I say living, cardboard boxes, garbage, possessions there, nonstop.
You think that'll help
And
the resale value?
yeah. Well, no, I mean, say, under this collection of boneheads between yelling, inflation is transitory, and the cost of home ownership has gone, the mortgage rate has gone from 2 to 7% or more, but you can't get a mortgage. And for a townhouse, you certainly cannot get a mortgage. Right, there's the wheelchair bump. And, up on the corner, I don't know if you can see to the left in the corner is the bank branch where there's typically always a bum. You can see, I think, the Chase blue awning there. There's typically always a bum in front of your bank branch. And how nice is that? You go in and out of the bank, and there's some guy, sometimes there's 2 and 3. Look at this poor guy. If Eric Adams and Tish James and the idiot Hochul and others on the progressive left truly cared about these people, now there's 2 people in front of 1 building, how many other bums are there scattered around the city? You would have, instead of people handing out traffic tickets and 700 special assistants or whatever Eric Adams at Meathead has, you put people on the street, and you go and you interview all these people, and you'd say to this poor guy in the wheelchair, what are you doing living on the street in a wheelchair? How can we help you? Who are you? Do you have any family? How did you end up in this position? Couldn't we get you into a better place?
Why don't they have that, Charles? They could have people going around all day, every day, and there's going to be people who want help.
Yeah, and I would start with, the people I'd make do. Let me backtrack a little bit. I was on the board of a company. People can look it up. It's called Ariel, Ariel Corporation. It's a private company. It is, folks on the left will not like it because they're very, very arch conservative politically, but in their business, it's a dominant player and a family control player in what's called natural gas compression manufacturing equipment. Is that it there? And what they do, they have many quirky rules. It was founded by a gentleman who just was unemployable. He was like me, untrainable, as one girlfriend once referred to me. But this guy just couldn't work for anybody else. And he had in the back of his mind this idea, he lived in a small town in Ohio, of creating compression equipment that as it got, the horsepower used to drive it got much bigger and bigger, the equipment would look exactly the same. That was not done back in the 60s. He pioneered it. And it's today a gigantic company. Well, the family, I was on the board for like 5 years, and they had many unusual principles, but one of them was if you're a new employee, whether you're the chairman or an employee, not a director, by the way, for the first 2 weeks, no matter what your job title was, you had to clean all the toilets in the company. And that was to take the attitude out of somebody who said, I'm going to come in here and be the CFO or the marketing guy or whatever. And they really placed great stock at that company in treating everybody well, regardless of title. That humanity is certainly not present in government, whether it's city government, state government, particularly federal government. The people who get the titles in government, they feel that we work for them. They're governing us.
Yeah.
But they have no track record. I mean, they cannot govern themselves, let alone, a country that is rampaging off a cliff, which brings us to the art department here that has come up with another. I mean, does the art department spend, what, months on each one, Jason?
I have to really get it down. We got so many shows today, Charles. This is the third show today. But this is that movie about
right?
the Jamaican, I think I saw this movie a long time ago, Jamaican bobsled team. I believe it's a true story. They actually, I don't know if they won, but they won a medal, right? Maybe bronze or silver.
I don't know, but this is, I mean, in the back there, you've got the American, a different type of head team.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is just ridiculous, right? Kamala Harris, I've been seeing some of the events and commercials and things that she's doing. I mean, this is so pathetically bad. It's almost worse than her stepdaughter or whatever that Harry Potter looking chick is, pretending to be a model. It's like me. It's like if the Knicks put me as the center forward and people were like, what? Really? Come on.
well, yeah, I mean, even if they put me as the center forward, I mean, I probably would be able to run underneath the legs of, these different, but no, I mean, Kamala Harris, the words that come to mind, some of them are not words that should be uttered on a family show. But I mean, this is somebody who has never legitimately accomplished anything in her life. Never. Right? I mean, she is a fake African American, first of all. She is not an African American. Her mother was Indian. Her father was Jamaican. And I hadn't appreciated when they talked about the father, he's a light-skinned Jamaican person. And the reason is his ancestors were slave owners in Jamaica. Now, you're not responsible for your ancestors, right? You weren't around back then, and you can't take the piss out of Kamala Harris over it. But she got married in 2014, right? How she is living in a mansion out in California, if it's courtesy of her husband, how did he make that money? And what has he been doing while Kamala Harris was a senator and now vice president and potentially president? What has he been doing, if anything, to monetize his connections to Kamala Harris? That's before you get into Peter Schweizer's excellent work, going back years now, on Kamala Harris and others, Biden and, frankly, Musk and Republicans. But Kamala Harris's track record as a prosecutor and then as district attorney, as attorney general in the Obama years, and then as a senator, and now as vice president, it's pathetic. It's truly pathetic. And to go and say, there were stories that came almost immediately out of her being selected to be vice president and then coasting to victory in 2020. There were stories immediately suggesting, on the one hand, that the staff turnover under her, which I use that phrase advisedly, is monumentally high. When you see monumentally high staff turnover in anything, that's not good. That means you're a poor manager. So here's somebody who has monumentally high staff turnover, and at the same time demands more responsibility, feels she doesn't have enough responsibility. Okay, fine. Deal with the border. There are all kinds of stories, and there's amusing, saying she's the border czar, she's the border czar. Now, there was somebody else temporarily in that position, and Biden did theatrically, and the handlers give her responsibility for coming up with a border program. And what Democrats are trying to do is to say, well, because Republicans refused to embrace some piece of shit bill that granted amnesty to tens of millions of people, that it was Republicans who were responsible for the crisis on the border created in January 2021 by executive order and other actions when Biden and Harris said, fuck the wall, fuck the spending, open things up. And before that, during the campaign said, if we win, we're going to welcome illegal immigrants into this country. So yes, there is a slice of America that is pathetically stupid. But to count on the mass of the electorate to look at this and say, oh, yeah, the border situation, the homeless situation, this is all Trump's fault. You could sell anything, but I don't think you could sell that legitimately to the American people unless you're also part of a plan to steal the election, quotes again.
Now, Charles, let me ask you something, because there's something very interesting going on right now. it was amazing to see the news basically. This is what we're talking about when we're saying stipulate reality, right? I mean, how can Forbes say, no, Kamala Harris is not the border czar? I mean, isn't this absurd? That's what they said she was.
Well, again, this is why, one of the reasons I chose to leave the country temporarily is that people need to engage their own minds, think about these issues. If it doesn't seem right to you, then check further into the evidence. See what evidence you can find. What's going on now is, I think, Google and Facebook and Twitter and other screeners of information that you're going to look at and that's going to come inside your head are very adept at removing information, including this broadcast.
Yeah.
So that it's tougher to see things for yourself. But on the other hand, evidence that our government puts out, we've talked about the NIPA tables, the National Income and Product Account tables, which, if you are comfortable with math, give you a vivid view, real-time view, what's actually going on in the economy. When you hear people talk about GDP is up. I don't give a shit about GDP. It's a concocted number. What I care about is, what is the total after-tax wages and proprietors' incomes? That's the top line income that comes into your bank account after you pay taxes. How does that stream of money look for the private sector alone, say from 1988 to the present? You can get that data from our government, and it paints a picture that is, this isn't Bidenomics. This is worse than Hooverville. I mean, this guy and Harris have created the economic conditions which could lead us to a situation worse than 1929. And no, we don't need Franklin D. Roosevelt Redux to help us pull us out of the crisis that they are themselves creating. I mean, you, Jason, and I have walked around, and you independently have walked around New York City and many other places. And nobody looking at those walk-arounds can say, oh, yes, examining the trajectory by time, nobody can say, yes, things are better off in 2024 than they were in, let's say, 2000. Even go back to 2000. Yeah, a long way, right? The streets are not safe. The schools are churning out propaganda. The students, you look at them and you just say, God help us. I mean, do we really, before I would consent, if I'm able to getting medical treatment from somebody who went to Harvard Medical School, I would want people to really examine that doctor. Did that person actually legitimately pass the various exams? Does that person know what they're doing? And just because you got Harvard or Yale or you name it, NYU stamped on your resume, that doesn't mean that you've actually credibly obtained those credentials. So this has been part of a long-standing plot to subvert this country, one that Abraham Lincoln talked about. The greatest danger to the American experiment lies from within. And now we see it. It's cool runnings. Give me a fucking break. Kamala Harris couldn't even make it, her campaign in 2019, couldn't even make it to the Iowa caucuses, right? She has never been legitimately tested in a national campaign. Never. She did not acquire this nomination legitimately. And it used to be in this country that presidents, after they finished their term or terms, shut the fuck up and got out off the stage and let the next president, take control and define his or her legacy. Obama is the first one. I mean, Clinton arguably, with his, in quotes, post-presidential foundation, you could say maybe he remained on the stage, but initially he had two black eyes from the Mark Rich pardons and from other scandals. But Obama basically said, not only am I not going to exit the stage, I'm going to remain in Washington, D.C., because I'm such a scrupulous saver. I was able to buy an $8 million mansion, another one in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to live there with my wife, Michelle, and with my former top domestic advisor, Valerie Jarrett, for a year, while we digitize the records of my presidency and argue that we're going to create this presidential foundation that's going to hold all the physical records. Whoops. No, we're not going to do that. We just graciously digitized, euthanized, or whatever the right phrase is, edited
But wait a
You know,
minute,
let's
Charles.
take anything that could.
Haven't they just done the very worst thing yet? Barack Obama, according to Seymour Hersh, basically perpetrated a coup by telling Joe, if you don't get the hell out of here, we're going to use the 25th Amendment.
Yeah, again, I would say that's another coup, and I'm not sure it was Barack Obama's genius behind this. I mean, really, when we go back, you know, it's a good thing, I suppose. And I want to say, from my own experience, which doesn't mean it'll be yours, the decision I made in around June 30th, 2023, to cease watching any kind of television has so re-energized my life. You know, I used to come home, turn on the 6 o'clock news, watch that, have dinner from 7 till 8, then watch a few evening shows, and go to sleep. Not doing that anymore frees up so much time, hours, to do other productive things. And you begin to disengage from the daily, oh, this show's coming and that show's coming, and here's another My Pillow ad. You know, you get out of that whole thing and you have more of a normal life. But you know, this idea that when Trump gave that speech in the summer at West Point, or the heat of the day in West Point, and he had new leather shoes. Many people are no longer wear leather-soled shoes, but if you do wear them, you have to be so careful walking down an incline, because you could easily find yourself on your keister. And so here he's walking carefully down an incline. There ensued, just from this video, multiple calls. 25th Amendment. The old man can't walk. He's struggling. The constant, breathless accounts of this.
Charles,
And
excuse me
yet,
1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you know what that actually looks like? This is one of these portable bleacher setups with retracting stairs, and it looks like one of those things where you can vary the angle of the stairs, and it was at a very shallow angle, which is actually an unusual way to descend stairs, because it looks like he was taking distinctive steps down, and you know what I mean?
Right.
When it's an off angle on a stairwell, either
Right.
too steep or too shallow, and it just sort of messes with your almost motor reflex skills of climbing stairs.
Right.
That's looked like what was happening.
Right, and those of us who ski will understand that actually the most dangerous slopes are the flat ones. Because if you go down, you're on a flat slope at high speed and you fall, all that momentum goes hard into the ground. When is it? You can hurt yourself on a steep slope, obviously, but at least you're able to you know, you don't take as much of a hit as quickly. Exactly. So
now, Charles, sorry. Before you get on a big tear, we're almost out of time here in the introductory part of the show, and we're going to shift over to the First Amendment Forum. People can join us there on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com, and patreon.com. /crowdsourcethetruth. Charles, I'm being accused of swapping you with the former John Cullen, because you are hidden behind sunglasses and a hat now.
How do you know it isn't John Cullen?
That's the thing. It could be a doppelganger. This could be a deep state coup here within Crowdsource the Truth. I don't think so, though. But there's so much going on in the news, Charles. Now, you've been traveling for quite a while, so you got to kind of catch up. But former Twitter, current X, is just exploding with information about this assassination attempt. It really seems like the FBI is attempting to send a lot of fake information into the public.
It's despicable. We'll talk about that at length. It sure seems to me. I mean, if I were president of the United States, I'd say, you know what? I ain't taking any Secret Service protection. I don't need any FBI. We're going to have our own. We're going to, you know, between the election and the inauguration, we're going to have our own team protect me. The same team that protected me on the campaign trail. You can take your Secret Service people and their Dunkin' Donuts frequent eater accounts and all that kind of stuff. Put them on the side. They can be the first, you know, boundary between me and the electorate. But I'm going to have boundary 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a lot of redundancy, and we're not going out to events again, as happened with Butler. We're not doing it.
Yeah. It seems like Cheadle was running it like it's the DMV or something like that, or the post office maybe, and we needed to run like a highly efficient.
Or like that, there's some various conspiracy television shows, where you go to an island. These old oligarchs would go to an island and pay for the privilege of hunting somebody.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that's almost let's attract as many crazy people into a situation where they'll have a clean shot at maybe
Just let them right
assassinating
up
our
on the
president.
roof. Let them have a dance
Yeah, come on
party up
in.
there for half an hour
Need some more
before we
ammo?
tell anybody or do anything about it. It's absolutely crazy. But listen, we'll be right back in 5 minutes. I hope that people will join us on odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth or any of the other sponsorship channels. Thank you to everyone who is sponsoring the show. And Charles, thank you to you for taking time out of I know you've just been traveling a lot. So stay with us, everybody. We'll be right back, and there's a ton to discuss. I want to hear what Charles has to say about Cy Hirsch and all this coup that Obama is accused of doing. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.